They crossed the stars to hunt us, armed with plasma rifles, cloaked ships, and centuries of conquest. The Zilanian Empire saw Earth as easy prey. We looked weak, divided, primitive. That's exactly what we wanted them to see. Because while they were watching us, we were watching them, learning, planning, preparing. They came to start the hunt, but they didn't know. On Earth, we are the apex predators. And this time, the hunters have just stepped into the trap. The Silent Watchers, the Zilanian battlecruiser Voidhunter, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a predator stepping into a clearing full of prey. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed in satisfaction. As he gazed at the blue-green world rotating peacefully in the distance, his species had perfected the art of conquest across 17 star systems, and Earth would be no different. "Status report," Kethver commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. His elongated skull, marked with the ritual scars of his victories, gleamed under the bridge's harsh lighting. "Sir, preliminary scans show a primitive civilization," reported his tactical officer. "Chemical rockets, basic satellites, and electromagnetic communications. Population approximately 8 billion, scattered across 7 continents. No unified planetary defense system detected." Kethver's mandibles clicked in amusement. The Z had evolved as apex predators on their homeworld, where the hunt was not just survival, but art. They had carried this philosophy to the stars, turning conquest into a ritualized form of cosmic hunting. Each species they encountered became prey in their grand design. "Perfect," the Admiral said. "Another world of soft prey, ripe for the harvest." What the Zilanians didn't know was that deep within a mountain complex in Colorado, Captain Elena Rodriguez watched their every move. The Cheyenne Mountain Strategic Defense Center had been monitoring alien civilizations for over 40 years. Ever since humanity's first deep space telescopes had detected signs of intelligent life among the stars. "Contact bearing 27, reported Lieutenant Torres from his sensor station. "Zilanian configuration confirmed. Displacement approximately 12,000 tons. Weapon signatures consistent with plasma cannon arrays." Captain Rodriguez nodded grimly. She was a small woman with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. But her voice carried the weight of absolute command. "Signal all stations. Initiate protocol. Shepard." Across the globe, seemingly innocent installations began to stir. Radio telescopes in Australia adjusted their positions. Deep-sea monitoring stations in the Pacific came online. Arctic research facilities powered up equipment that had nothing to do with climate studies. For decades, humanity had been preparing for this moment, building a defense network that appeared to be nothing more than scientific curiosity. Dr. James Park, the facility's chief xenobiologist, pulled up holographic displays showing the alien vessel Elena. "We've been studying their species for 3 years. They're persistence hunters, just like us, but they've grown arrogant. They expect their prey to run or hide." "But we're not running," Elena replied. "We're hunting too." The Zilanians had made their first mistake. They assumed that a species without faster-than-light travel would be primitive in all ways. They didn't understand that necessity had made humans incredibly creative with the resources they had. Every limitation had been turned into an advantage. Every weakness into a strength. Commander Lu Chen joined them at the tactical display. As Earth's chief strategic defense coordinator, he had spent 15 years preparing for this day. The Zilanians follow predictable patterns. They'll establish orbital superiority, send down scouting parties, then begin systematic conquest of major population centers. They always start with the same approach, which means we know exactly what they're going to do," Elena said. High above, Admiral Kethver was indeed following the standard Zilanian conquest protocol. His ship moved into geostationary orbit above the North American continent, its massive bulk casting shadows across the landscape below. Smaller vessels detached from the main ship, descending toward major cities like predators circling their prey. "Begin Phase 1, Kethver commanded. "Transmit the standard surrender demand." The message went out across all human communication channels simultaneously. Kethver's image appeared on every television screen, computer monitor, and mobile device. On Earth, his alien features were designed to inspire fear: the elongated skull, the forearms, the predatory stance that spoke of countless victories. "People of Earth," his voice boomed in perfectly translated languages. "I am Admiral Kethver of the Zilanian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our territory. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Submit, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will turn your planet into a monument to our superiority." In the Cheyenne Mountain facility, the command staff watched the transmission with grim satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as their models had predicted. "Be's beautiful," Dr. Park said sarcastically. "Classic apex predator mentality. Notice how he frames it as a hunt rather than a war. They see us as prey animals to be harvested, not enemies to be defeated." "That's their second mistake," Elena said. "They don't understand that humans are apex predators too. We just hunt differently." The beauty of humanity's defense plan lay in its subtlety. For 40 years, every piece of infrastructure on Earth had been designed with dual purposes: power grids that could be weaponized, communication networks that could coordinate planetary defense, transportation systems that could move resources and personnel with military precision. Even civilian technology had been developed with defense applications in mind. The internet, which the Zilanians dismissed as primitive communication infrastructure, was actually the most sophisticated command and control system ever created. Every smartphone, every computer, every smart device was potentially part of a vast, distributed network that could coordinate responses faster than any military could react. Initiate Phase 2, Alina commanded. Across Earth, the response began. Not panic, not desperate military mobilization, but something far more subtle. Traffic patterns in major cities shifted almost imperceptibly. Communication networks rerouted data through pathways that created redundant coverage. Power consumption changed in ways that boosted certain systems while appearing to conserve energy elsewhere. To the Zilanians, Earth looked exactly as they expected: a primitive world with frightened populations and disorganized governments. They saw what they wanted to see, which was exactly what humans intended. The first Azelian scouting ships descended toward major cities: New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, all the obvious targets that any military strategist would choose. The ships were sleek, deadly, and confident. Their crews were experienced hunters who had done this dozens of times before. What they didn't see were the millions of small adjustments happening across the planet. Solar panels that were actually sophisticated sensor arrays, wind turbines that generated energy and monitored atmospheric conditions for military purposes, cell phone towers that could focus electromagnetic energy in ways their designers had never intended. Lieutenant Sarah Williams crouched on a rooftop in Manhattan, watching the first Zilanian scout ship approach through binoculars that looked ordinary but contained technology that would have impressed NASA engineers. She was part of a network of ordinary citizens who had volunteered for roles they barely understood, but who trusted their government when it said their planet needed them. Target acquired, she whispered into a communicator disguised as a fitness tracker. Bearing 090, altitude 2,000 meters, speed decreasing. Similar reports came in from thousands of observers across the globe: bus drivers, teachers, construction workers, retirees, all of them providing data to a defense network that the aliens couldn't detect because it looked like ordinary human activity. In the Cheyenne Mountain facility, the data streams painted a perfect picture of the alien approach. Every ship was tracked, every movement predicted, every tactical decision anticipated. "They're setting up exactly as we expected," Commander Liu reported. "Orbital command vessel maintaining position, scout ships approaching primary targets, ground assault teams preparing for deployment. Time to show them what human hunting looks like," Alina said. The activation signal went out across the planet in a burst of seemingly random electromagnetic noise that would have appeared to alien sensors as nothing more than solar interference. But to the millions of devices waiting for that signal, it was the command to begin the hunt. Streetlights across major cities flickered in patterns that seemed random but were actually coordinated targeting data. Traffic management systems rerouted vehicles in ways that cleared specific corridors while creating obstacles in others. Even the civilian internet began carrying data packets that contained tactical information disguised as social media posts and video streams. The Zilanians noticed none of it. They were focused on their prey as any good predator should be. But they had made the crucial error of assuming their prey was helpless. Admiral Kethvar watched the initial deployment from his command bridge. Satisfied with the progress, his forces were moving according to plan, and the humans appeared to be reacting with the expected fear and confusion. Some cities were already broadcasting surrender messages, exactly as intelligence reports had predicted. "Sir, his communications," officer reported. "We're receiving multiple surrender transmissions from major population centers. It appears the humans are capitulating even faster than usual." "Excellent," Kethvar replied, "but maintain full tactical readiness. Sometimes prey animals make desperate attempts to fight back." He had no idea how right he was, or how wrong. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, automated systems that had waited decades for activation began to power up. Submarine installations that appeared on no human maps started communicating with satellites that officially didn't exist. Arctic monitoring stations that claimed to study ice patterns began focusing. Arrays of equipment that had nothing to do with climate research. The trap was set. The hunters had arrived, confident in their superiority and certain of their victory. They had found what appeared to be a world full of helpless prey, ready for harvesting. But the prey had been watching them for years, learning their patterns, studying their weaknesses, and preparing for this exact moment. The Zilanians thought they were beginning a hunt. They were actually walking into one. The trap springs. The first Zilanian ground assault began at dawn over New York City. 3 sleek dropships descended from the overcast sky like mechanical birds of prey, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of a species that had never known defeat. Each ship carried 50 warriors, elite soldiers who had conquered worlds and considered humans just another species of soft, frightened animals. Lieutenant Colonel Rickstall commanded the lead ship, his ceremonial hunt marks freshly painted on his armor. He had personally overseen 17 planetary conquests, and Earth was meant to be a simple addition to his impressive record. As the dropship's doors opened and his warriors deployed into Central Park, everything appeared exactly as expected. "Command, this is Ground Team Alpha," he reported through his communication array. "Landing zone secured. No resistance detected. Human civilians fleeing as anticipated." What Rickstall couldn't see was that the fleeing civilians were moving in carefully choreographed patterns, each person following routes that had been planned months in advance. The panic was real, but it was organized panic, designed to draw the alien forces exactly where human strategists wanted them. 3 blocks away, Sarah Williams had traded her rooftop observation post for a position in the basement of what appeared to be an abandoned office building. The basement was actually a sophisticated command center, one of thousands hidden throughout the city. She watched tactical displays that showed the alien positions with perfect clarity. "Phoenix Base, this is Manhattan Control," she reported into her headset. "Package delivery confirmed. 3 groups of 50, deployed in standard formation. They're following the script perfectly." The script was the result of decades of analysis. Human strategists had studied every available piece of intelligence about Zelanian tactics, learning their patterns, understanding their psychology, and most importantly, discovering their weaknesses. The aliens were excellent hunters, but they were also predictable. General Marcus Thompson coordinated the global response from a command center that officially didn't exist, buried beneath the Pentagon but connected to every major city on Earth. He was a veteran of 3 wars and had spent the last decade preparing for a 4th war that he hoped would never come. Now that it had arrived, he was grimly satisfied to see his preparations working exactly as planned. "All stations report status," he commanded into his headset. The responses came in from around the world. London, Tokyo, Berlin, Sydney, Cairo. Every major city where Zelanian forces had landed reported the same thing. The aliens were deploying according to their standard patterns, moving into positions that human defenders had anticipated months ago. "They're making this almost too easy," muttered Colonel Jennifer Hayes, Thompson's chief of staff. "It's like they're following a playbook we wrote for them." "In a way, they are," Thompson replied. "Apex predators are creatures of habit. They use the same tactics because those tactics have always worked. They have no reason to change their approach." The genius of the human strategy was its invisibility. Every major city on Earth had been quietly modified over the past 20 years to serve as a massive trap, but the modifications were so subtle that even human citizens barely noticed them. Subway systems had been expanded with tunnels that served no apparent purpose. Power grids had been enhanced with capacity that seemed unnecessary. Communication networks had been upgraded with redundancies that appeared to be simple efficiency improvements. In reality, every major city had been turned into a weapon. Professor Anna Kowalski monitored the technical aspects of the defense from her laboratory in MIT, which was actually a secondary command center disguised as an academic facility. She was a specialist in adaptive technology, and her life's work was about to be put to the ultimate test. Initiating Phase 3, she announced, to her team of graduate students who are actually military technicians with advanced degrees. "All systems show green. We are go for Symphony Protocol." The Symphony Protocol was the culmination of 20 years of preparation. Every piece of civilian infrastructure in every major city had been designed to work together as a single, coordinated system. When activated, the entire urban environment would become a weapon of unprecedented sophistication. The first sign that something was wrong came when Rickstall's communication equipment began experiencing interference. The signals were still clear, but there were subtle delays, tiny disruptions that made coordination slightly more difficult. His warriors reported similar problems with their targeting systems. Everything worked, but nothing worked perfectly. "Command, we're experiencing minor technical difficulties," Rickstall reported. "All systems functional, but operating at reduced efficiency." "Acknowledged. Ground Team Alpha," came the reply from the Void Hunter. "Engineering reports no system malfunctions. Continue mission as planned." But the problems were getting worse. Navigation systems that had been flawless for decades began showing tiny discrepancies. Weapons that had never missed their targets started firing slightly offset, and communication delays that started as microseconds stretched into full seconds. What the Zelanians didn't understand was that their technology was being subjected to the most sophisticated electronic warfare attack in galactic history. Every radio wave, every electromagnetic signal, every digital communication in the city was being subtly altered by a network of devices that appeared to be nothing more than routine urban infrastructure. Streetlights that seemed to flicker randomly were actually creating precise interference patterns. Cell phone towers were broadcasting signals that disrupted alien electronics. Even the electrical systems in buildings were generating electromagnetic fields that interfered with Zelanian equipment. The attack was so subtle, so distributed, and so embedded in the normal operation of the city that it was virtually undetectable. The aliens knew something was wrong, but they couldn't identify what or where the source might be. This is impossible, Rick still muttered as his tactical display flickered and distorted. These humans don't have this kind of technology. That was the Zelanians' third mistake. They had assumed that a species without faster-than-light travel would be primitive in all areas of technology. They hadn't considered that humans might be incredibly advanced in other ways, or that they might have spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. In the subway tunnels beneath Manhattan, teams of civilian volunteers were implementing the next phase of the defense. These weren't soldiers or military personnel. They were subway workers, electrical technicians, and city maintenance staff who had been quietly training for this moment for years. All teams, this is underground control, announced Maria Santos, a former subway supervisor who now coordinated the most important transit operation in human history. Initiate tunnel protocol. Across the city, subway systems that had been expanded far beyond their apparent need suddenly revealed their true purpose. The extra tunnels weren't for passenger traffic, they were for moving personnel and equipment. In a coordinated response to alien invasion, within minutes, thousands of defenders were moving through the underground network, appearing at strategic positions throughout the city. The Zelanians found themselves surrounded by humans who seemed to materialize from nowhere. Not soldiers, but ordinary citizens who had spent years learning how to turn their own city into a battlefield. Teachers who knew how to disable alien communication systems. Bus drivers who could coordinate civilian evacuations while providing tactical intelligence. Office workers who understood how to use everyday technology as weapons. Command, this is Ground Team Alpha, Rickstall reported, his voice showing the first signs of concern. We're encountering organized resistance. Human civilians appear to be coordinating defensive actions with military precision. Impossible, Admiral Kethfer replied from the bridge of the Void Hunter. These are primitive prey animals. They don't have the capacity for organized military action. But as reports came in from around the globe, the pattern became undeniable. In every city where Zelanian forces had landed, they were encountering the same phenomenon. Human civilians who fought with the coordination of trained soldiers, using tactics that seemed designed specifically to counter Zelanian advantages. The truth was even more sophisticated than the aliens imagined. Every human on Earth had been preparing for this moment their entire lives, though most of them hadn't known it. The education system had been subtly modified to teach problem-solving skills that happened to be useful in asymmetric warfare. Emergency preparedness drills had trained civilians in coordination and communication. Even entertainment had been designed to help humans think strategically about conflict and survival. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a strategic psychologist working from a command center in Tokyo, monitored the psychological aspects of the engagement. Her job was to analyze Zelanian behavior patterns and predict their responses to human tactics. They're beginning to show signs of confusion and frustration, she reported to General Thompson. Classic predator psychology. When their usual tactics don't work, they become increasingly aggressive, but less strategic. Good, Thompson replied. That's exactly what we want. An angry predator makes mistakes. The Zelanians were indeed becoming more aggressive as their equipment malfunctioned and their communications degraded. They responded with increased firepower and more direct attacks. But every escalation played into human hands. Because the defense network had been designed to turn alien aggression against itself, when Zelanian forces fired their energy weapons at what appeared to be civilian targets, the shots were absorbed by buildings that had been constructed with advanced materials disguised as ordinary concrete and steel. When they tried to destroy communication towers, the towers were designed to fail in ways that actually improved the human communication network. When they attempted to take control of power stations, they found themselves trapped in facilities that could be turned into prisons at the touch of a button. The most beautiful aspect of the human strategy was that it turned the aliens' greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The Zelanians were magnificent hunters, but they had evolved to hunt prey that ran away. They had no experience dealing with prey that fought back, using the hunter's own instincts against them. All stations. This is Global Command, General Thompson announced. Phase 4 is now active. Initiate Persistence Protocol. Around the world, the true nature of human strategy began to reveal itself. The Zelanians had evolved as persistence hunters on their homeworld, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, but humans were persistence hunters too, and they had spent decades preparing to turn this ancient tactic into a weapon of galactic warfare. The defense of Earth wasn't designed to defeat the aliens quickly. It was designed to exhaust them slowly, to wear down their resources, to make every victory costly and every defeat devastating. The humans would outlast their enemies through sheer stubborn determination. Just as their ancestors had outlasted woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, the hunters had come to Earth expecting to find helpless prey. Instead, they had found other hunters who had been waiting for them with the patience of species that had learned to survive through persistence, intelligence, and the absolute refusal to give up. The trap was closing, and the Zelanians were beginning to realize that they were no longer the predators in this hunt, the true predators by the third day of the invasion. Admiral Kethfer stood on the bridge of the Void Hunter, staring at tactical displays that made no sense. His perfectly planned conquest had devolved into a nightmare of system malfunctions, coordinated resistance, and impossible losses. The humans, who should have been cowering in submission, were fighting back with a sophistication that challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare. "Status report," he demanded, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Sir," his tactical officer replied, mandibles clicking nervously, "we've lost contact with 40% of our ground forces. The remaining units report continuous equipment failures and organized civilian resistance. Our orbital bombardment systems are experiencing targeting errors, and our communication networks are degraded across all frequencies." "How is this possible?" Kethfer asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Deep within the Cheyenne Mountain facility, President Maya Singh observed the alien commander's growing desperation with grim satisfaction. She had been elected to lead humanity through its greatest crisis, and she was determined to see her species not just survive, but emerge stronger than ever. "General Thompson," she said to the military commander at her side, "I think it's time we introduced ourselves properly." Thompson nodded. "Initiate Contact Protocol 7. Open all channels. Across the globe, every communication system on Earth synchronized to broadcast a single message. Television screens, radio transmissions, internet feeds, and even the emergency broadcast systems and alien equipment carried the same signal." President Singh's image appeared on every display, but she wasn't alone. Standing behind her were representatives from every major nation on Earth, united in a way that the planet had never seen before. Admiral Kethfer Singh said, her voice carrying the authority of an entire species. "I am President Singh of the United Earth Government. I believe it's time we had a conversation." On the bridge of the Void Hunter, the display flickered and resolved into the image of the human leader. Kethfer was struck by how calm she appeared, how utterly unafraid. In his experience, the leaders of conquered worlds were either dead or begging for mercy by this point in an invasion. "You're the leader of this world?" he asked. "I am," Singh replied. "And you're the leader of the forces that have spent the last 3 days learning why nobody hunts humans on their own territory." "Your resistance is admirable but futile," Kethfer said, though the words sounded hollow even to him. "We have conquered 47 worlds. Your species cannot hope to match our military superiority." Singh smiled, and there was something predatory in the expression that made Kethfer's skin crawl. "Admiral, I don't think you understand what's happening here. You haven't encountered resistance. You've encountered a trap." The camera angle widened to show the command center around Singh. It was vast, sophisticated, and bustling with activity that spoke of preparation and coordination on a scale that should have been impossible for a primitive species. "You see, Admiral, we've been watching you for quite some time. Your species, your technology, your tactics. We've studied your conquest of the Telex system 5 years ago. We analyzed your defeat of the Moroccan Empire 7 years ago. We've been learning from every species you've ever conquered, understanding your methods, and preparing for the day when you would come for us." Dr. Yuki Tanaka stepped forward, her psychological profile of the alien commander having prepared her for this moment. "The Zilenians are persistence hunters, just like us. But there's a crucial difference. You hunt until your prey collapses from exhaustion. We hunt until our prey surrenders or dies. The question is, which one of us has more endurance?" Kethfer felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that everything that has happened since you arrived has been planned," Singh replied. "Your orbital position, your deployment patterns, your tactical decisions. We've been guiding you exactly where we wanted you to go." The truth was even more sophisticated than the aliens could comprehend. For decades, human intelligence agencies had been conducting the most elaborate deception operation in history. Every piece of information about Earth that had reached alien civilizations had been carefully crafted to present humans as primitive, disorganized, and helpless. Radio signals that seemed to show internal conflicts were actually coordinated broadcasts, designed to make Earth appear divided. Economic data that suggested resource scarcity was fabricated to make the planet seem like easy prey. Even the apparent lack of unified planetary government was a carefully maintained illusion. Captain Elena Rodriguez joined the conversation from her position in the Cheyenne Mountain facility. "Admiral, your species evolved as apex predators on a world where you had no competition. You've become accustomed to being the most dangerous thing in any environment. But humans evolved on a world full of predators. We learned to survive by being smarter, more adaptable, and more persistent than anything that wanted to eat us. We are persistence hunters," added General Thompson, "but we don't just wear down our prey through physical exhaustion. We exhaust them mentally, technologically, and strategically. Every system on your ships, every piece of equipment your forces carry, every tactical doctrine you follow. We've been systematically undermining all of it for the past 3 days." The displays in the Human Command Center showed the full scope of the operation. Across Earth, the defense network was revealing its true nature. Power grids that had seemed primitive were actually sophisticated energy distribution systems capable of supporting planetary-scale operations. Communication networks that appeared fragmented were actually redundant systems with capacity far beyond anything the aliens had imagined. Most importantly, the human population that had seemed disorganized and panicked was actually the most coordinated military force in the galaxy. 8 billion people working together with the precision of a single organism. Each person trained from childhood in the skills necessary to survive invasion by technologically superior forces. You wanted to hunt us? Sing said, her voice carrying the weight of an entire species' determination, but you made a crucial error. You assumed that because we don't have faster-than-light travel, we must be primitive in all other areas. You didn't consider that we might have spent our time and resources differently than you did. Dr. James Park appeared on the screen, surrounded by displays showing alien technology in various states of analysis. While you were developing interstellar travel and plasma weapons, we were developing something else. The ability to turn any environment into a weapon. Every city on Earth is now a fortress. Every civilian is now a soldier. Every piece of infrastructure is now part of a coordinated defense system. But more than that, President Singh continued, you fundamentally misunderstood what kind of predators we are. You hunt for sport, for conquest, for the pleasure of domination. We hunt for survival. And when humans are fighting for survival, we don't just resist. We adapt, we learn, we evolve. The communication channel expanded to show feeds from around the globe. In every major city, Xylanian forces were being systematically defeated, not by superior firepower, but by superior coordination. Human defenders were using alien weapons captured from previous engagements. Human technicians were reprogramming alien equipment to serve human purposes. Human strategists were predicting alien moves with such accuracy that they seemed to be reading the aliens' minds. The persistence hunt has begun, Admiral Singh said, but you're not the hunters, you're the prey. Admiral Kethfer stared at the displays, watching his carefully planned invasion crumble before his eyes. His forces were being defeated not by superior technology but by superior thinking. Every advantage his species had developed over millennia of conquest was being systematically neutralized by humans who had spent decades preparing for this exact scenario. What do you want? He asked, his voice hollow with the realization of defeat. Surrender, Singh replied simply. Complete, unconditional surrender. Your forces will lay down their weapons and submit to human authority. Your ships will be turned over to human crews. Your technology will be shared with human scientists, and you will help us understand the galaxy you came from. And if I refuse, Singh's smile was patient, but there was something terrifying in its certainty. Then we will demonstrate why apex predators don't survive when they encounter persistence hunters. We will hunt you across the galaxy if necessary. We will track down every ship, every base, every outpost of your empire. We will turn every species you've conquered into allies against you. And we will not stop until your civilization either surrenders or ceases to exist. The silence on the bridge of the Void Hunter was profound. Kethfer looked around at his officers, seeing his own defeat reflected in their expressions. They were magnificent hunters, but they had encountered something they had never imagined. Prey that was actually a more efficient predator than they were. You're not offering us a choice, Kethfer said finally. No, Singh agreed. We're not. That's the difference between hunting for sport and hunting for survival. When humans hunt, we don't give our prey a choice. The transmission ended, leaving the Xylanian command crew to contemplate their situation. They had come to Earth expecting to find another world of helpless victims. Instead, they had found a species that had spent centuries preparing for the moment when the hunters would come. For them, outside the Void Hunter, space began to fill with objects that hadn't been there before. Human spacecraft that had been hidden in the asteroid belt, powered down and virtually undetectable, were now revealing themselves. Ships that appeared primitive by Xylanian standards, but which had been specifically designed to counter alien technology. The humans had been hunting too, and their prey had finally revealed itself. On Earth's surface, the celebration was muted but determined. Humanity had passed its greatest test, proving that intelligence, preparation, and sheer stubborn persistence could overcome any advantage. They had shown that the strongest predator wasn't always the one with the biggest teeth or the most advanced weapons. Sometimes, the strongest predator was the one that refused to be prey. The galaxy was about to learn that humans weren't just another species to be conquered. They were the apex predators of a new age, and they had been waiting patiently for their turn to hunt. The Xylanians had come to harvest a planet full of helpless prey. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The age of human expansion was about to begin. If you liked this story, please like it and leave your feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more stories.